empowered service culture. In this lesson, we'll be looking at 1. The importance of an empowered service culture at our hotels, and 2. Specifically for managers and supervisors, we will focus on building an empowered service culture. Let's start with the importance of an empowered service culture. Have you ever been in a situation where a guest is complaining and you felt unsure how to rectify the problem, as though you don't have any authority? Instead of dealing with the complaint immediately, we say, "I'll call my manager." This is one of the worst things we can say to our guests because they will have to repeat themselves and feel as though their problem is not being dealt with efficiently or that we don't care about them. If, instead, we deal with the problem there and then, the guest will feel satisfied with our efficiency and attention. During the rest of their stay, we should make a point of checking up on the guest, ensuring that the problem has not recurred. Having one point of contact is so important for building relationships and ensuring guest loyalty. And when we take ownership of any feedback or problem, it provides guests with the assurance that we take our service seriously and lets them feel that we care for them. This is a great example of the difference between a service culture that is empowered and one that is not. Feeling empowered means that when we receive the complaint, regardless of what the complaint is about or which department it may involve, we should own the complaint and resolve it to the guest's satisfaction without passing the guest onto another person or attributing blame. Research shows that guests who have had a problem that was successfully resolved are more likely to be loyal to a hotel than guests who have had a pleasant, problem-free stay. In fact, 54 to 70% of guests will return if they were satisfied with a resolution, and this increases to 95% if a solution was found in less than 1 hour. Complaints are actually good because they show us how we can better ourselves and further empower our service culture. Of course, for serious issues, such as injuries or a food poisoning case, we would also need to report the issue to the head of the department immediately so that the situation can be communicated to the general manager or executive assistant manager as soon as possible. It is important to remember that in situations where there is a high impact on the guest, escalation to the manager or supervisor on duty will be needed. If an issue is escalated due to high impact on the guest, compensation will need to be involved. It is vital that we remember to keep compensation appropriate and relevant. For instance, if a guest has food poisoning, they would not be compensated with a massage. Rather, their medical bills would be covered, and they may be offered a dinner at a different outlet. Because of this, compensation tends to be quite a grey area, so ask your manager for guidance. Now, let's move on to building an empowered service culture. If you are a manager or supervisor, this is an important section for you. So, now that we know that having an empowered service culture results in guest loyalty and guest satisfaction, we need to examine how to build an empowered service culture for our colleagues. Firstly, it is so important for everyone to take ownership of the guest's experience at our hotel and to feel a personal responsibility for their enjoyment and satisfaction during their stay. There are a few specific ways we can embed an empowered service culture. Let's begin with A. Developing problem handling skills. Developing the skills needed to resolve problems is vital in order to build an empowered service culture at our hotel. Having a broad knowledge of service recovery methods will build greater confidence in colleagues because they can deal with situations themselves. Workshops, such as Promises Kept, are great ways to develop problem handling skills and to provide colleagues with compensation and resolution guidelines. Next, let's take a look at B. Removing barriers. To build an empowered service culture successfully, barriers to colleagues being able to drop their duties to own and resolve guest issues immediately need to be identified and removed. Some examples of barriers are inappropriate colleague scheduling, a lack of recognition from management, too little access to management, too little support from management, and a lack of confidence for the compensation process. If these barriers are addressed every day, building an empowered service culture will be far easier. Let's move on to C. Building confidence and trust. Showing trust in colleagues' abilities to resolve complaints and issues with guests and supporting their decisions will result in a skyrocketing of their self-confidence in terms of problem resolution. It is important that as management, we do not reprimand colleagues even if we feel they may have overcompensated a guest to make the guest feel satisfied. Rather, we should use that opportunity to coach colleagues while congratulating their initiative to make the guest happy, whatever it takes. Now let's look at D, developing long-term solutions. Another great way to build an empowered service culture is to involve all colleagues in developing long-term solutions for recurring problems. This is a great way to incorporate resolution skills development, as well as build a sense of confidence, ownership, and responsibility. Finally, let's discuss E, celebrating successes. Recognize our colleagues' skills and abilities at problem resolution and celebrate them. It is a great way to build confidence, a sense of personal responsibility, and develop a culture of camaraderie throughout the team. You should now have a better understanding of an empowered service culture. To summarize, we looked at 1. The importance of an empowered service culture at our hotels, and 2. Building an empowered service culture. Well done on completing this lesson, and enjoy empowering yourself and your colleagues at your hotel.